time to hammer.
Oh, I gotta really try hard.
Shut it down!
Somehow it's the best.
After the credits.
A YumChunks podcast.
YumChunks!
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to After the Credits, a YumChunks podcast, where we talk movies, TV, and all other manner of things. I am Matt Chewy. With us today is Vince Rizzo. What's going on?
Hey, I'm here.
Hey, we also have Ryan Davis. How you been today?
Happy to be here, yeah.
Good. And Sean Davis. Hey, Sean.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, how are you today? What are we talking about today, Sean?
We're gonna talk about Captain Marvel.
Marvel.
The movie.
This is Marvel. This sounds better if we say Marvel.
Marvel.
Right.
Captain Marvel.
Yes, today we're going to be talking about Captain Marvel, but it's been a few episodes since we've actually had a catch-up sharing circle. What do we call this segment? What is this even? Can we come up with a name for this?
Sitting around the chunk fire. Telling stories.
That's
All
not
right.
a good title, and it's very long.
Yeah, well, I don't hear you coming up with anything.
How about, hey, how you been?
Hey, how you been? All right, this week for today's Hey, how you been? Hey, you want to know, Ryan, how you been? What have you been up to recently?
Oh boy, I can't wait to tell you how I've been.
Oh boy, I can't wait.
Well, it has been quite a while since we've done a Hey, how you been? So there's a long list, but I'll keep it short for the most part. Well, I want to let you know about some shows that I've been watching. And let's see, where do I want to start? I watched the Assassination of Gianni Versace.
I saw that.
That was so good, but it was probably one of the most soul-crushing things I've ever sat through. It was so just demoralizing, and it just makes me not want to exist anymore. But I will say that Darren Criss is most certainly a serial killer. He was so good that I was just like, nope, he's not acting. That's just him. He's a serial killer.
Isn't that show an anthology show?
It is. It's the first season was the OJ trial.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's just like every season they do a different American
crime story.
thing.
That's like the thing.
Yeah.
It was
but
very
I
good.
can't recommend it enough. It's great if you don't want to enjoy things.
It's not really my genre, but I also am. Darren Criss is one of those people that I am just proud of because I saw him before he, while he was still building himself up, and I just want to support him. So we all want to go see him perform.
Man,
Yeah, we
remember
did.
that?
We
We didn't
went
know
all
if
the
he was
way-
going to be there.
And he was.
Yeah, we did know actually. That's why we went to the Hollywood one.
They
Yeah,
said
what-
maybe.
Oh well.
Well, yeah.
Okay,
But-
but good show.
We did. And it was a good show.
Yes.
See, I watched both seasons of Atlanta, which is good. But also, like, it was good, like a really good show. But man, it was actually also very hard to watch.
It
I
gets
wasn't
intense.
expecting it to be so intense and real.
Season 2 gets really intense. I was not prepared for it.
Me neither.
Especially because once they dropped season 2 on streaming, I went back and watched season 1 again because I was like, I don't feel like anything was super plot important between the two seasons, but I don't really remember a lot of it. And so I rewatched season 1 right before 2, and then when it hit 2, the switch flips, like in the tone. It gets real. It gets crazy.
Yeah, it really does.
I don't think it sacrifices the tone of the show though, which is I think a strong suit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It stays strong, and I forgot his name, but the actor that plays Darius, man, that guy is so he's in Get
fantastic.
Out, and he's in Sorry to Bother You. He is so good. I love that guy.
He's
barely a character in the show, but he's still really good. I mean,
he's a standout.
On a lighter note, I watched the second season of Dragon Prince. I wouldn't mind doing a podcast on that if people were interested. I thought the second season was way better than the first one.
Yeah, I agree. I saw the second season too, and it was definitely an improvement.
Yeah, I think they heard the complaints from the audience or the viewers, and they just like, all right, cool, we can fix that easie.
I mean, I was yelling really loud when I was complaining.
Yeah,
so they probably heard me.
Yeah. Let's see. I've watched the Fire Fraud one on Hulu.
I just watched the Netflix one.
Yeah, I watched the
I've
Netflix one.
I've seen them both now.
of them. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've seen both of them. I've seen the Netflix one a couple times now, And man, I am just super fascinated with those. I think they're well put together, first of all, and very entertaining. So if you haven't seen the Hulu one, I do recommend just to kind of complete the story. I think it kind of completes the picture, if you will.
Right. I'm glad that I watched them in the order that I did. I ended up liking the Netflix one way more, and part of it is because as someone who works in like event planning, that one really. I watched the Hulu one. I already had a sense of the idea of the story and what happened, but even having already watched the Hulu one, while I was watching the Netflix one, as it went on, I'm like, how does this keep getting worse? How does this keep getting worse? Yeah. And there's a part of me that wants to because it's it's kind of R-rated, I guess, but I want to re-edit it, like a clean edit, and show it to my class and say, okay, here's the assignment: fix Firefest.
I think that would be because we were kind of talking about this a little bit before, but just like the logistics of setting up an event. What does it take? And no one running Fire Festival knew what it took, and that's why it is what it is.
Right. You can't just sit around in a circle and go, "Hey, you know what'd be fun? Let's throw a Coachella." Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So there's so many fascinating things about the whole thing, and I would actually not mind doing a podcast about that. It doesn't really fit our medium because it's.
But I would though.
Yeah, I
put it on the maybe list, and let's keep our analysis short for the time being. What else have you been up to, Ryan Davis?
Indeed. Okay, the best thing on the list is I finally got around to watching the 5th season of Samurai Jack, and that's it. Wish it came out a while ago, but oh my gosh, it was so just the best thing I've seen in a long time. It was so enjoyable.
Never got into that, so I mean, that's always been on my possibly watch list. So
those were the highlights, I guess, of what I've been up to. There's some other stuff, but that's
cool. Vince, what about you? You've been what have you been getting yourselves into? Kind of adventures, you little scamp.
Well, let's talk about some of them. I would actually say I've been trying to dial down a few of my adventures. I think I've been adventuring a little too much.
What?
Adventures? By that I mean, I don't feel like I've actually got any proper sleep in the last 6 months. And because of that, I'm blaming that primarily on the stupid bird scooters. So I'm going to stop that for a little bit.
I thought you were going to say the stupid babies.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's also true. Oh my gosh. No. Let me tell you. So trying to potty train a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old at the same time is not easy at all.
The 2-year-old's gonna be too advanced.
You need to hypercharge your training for the 3-year-old. That way you can recruit the 3-year-old to train the 2-year-old. That's how positions of power work. That's delegation.
So Carter hasn't pooped in like 3 days. He just doesn't want to poop. Like he understands the concept of pooping, but he won't poop in the potty. He won't go poop in the toilet. And it's Mason, on the other hand, just likes to take off her diaper because we still give her a diaper and just poop on the floor. We'll just find big piles of poop on the floor.
I don't know which situation is. I mean, I do know, I think, but like just long term and.
I can't tell you how many times I get home from work and I'm like, honey, oh, there's poop on the ground.
Carter
do you blame
holding it in?
Paige?
No, I don't blame
Paige.
The thing I don't understand is like Mason's like concept of, because she understands the concept of needing to get potty trained, but for some reason she decides to like I'd so much prefer if she could just poop in her diaper rather than poop on the floor.
She's fighting the patriarchy, Vince. Why does she got to go poop in your toilet?
Yeah.
Why do we got to abide by these rules? Did you set these rules? Who wants this toilet rules?
I don't understand why a toilet is part of the patriarchy.
It's there. It is.
Okay, all right. I'm not gonna. That's as deep as I want to dive into that, because it's a toilet.
Oh, I get it.
Oh.
Yeah. I didn't try that hard on that one. Anyway, well, you know what, Vince? That is adulthood, isn't it?
Yeah. There's a lot of things you don't consider, like when you have kids. I mean, like I just assumed that, like, I don't remember what it was like potty training myself. But
I don't think you potty trained yourself.
You didn't do it.
But man, I mean, if I was anything like my kids are, I'm
Well, you're
glad-
paying it back. The karma's coming back around.
it's happening twofold because these two kids are so close in age that they're pretty much the same person, just times two. And oh man, it's rough. Sometimes I just lay on the floor and let them just climb on me
Poop
like
on
a
you?
jungle gym, and not poop on me. I haven't let that happen yet. They did pee on Paige's mom though the other day.
Oh.
boy.
Not simultaneously. One peed and the other one kind of just watched that happen. So that's what my life has been like. I wish I could say I watched a lot of exciting Netflix shows. Let's see. What have I watched?
You said there was something
I've-
your kids were watching 100 times of.
Oh, Happy Feet. Yep, I have seen every single scene in Happy Feet so many times.
Vince, your life is my nightmare.
It's the weirdest thing. Like, so I understand that Robin Williams plays that one guy, but I think Robin Williams has multiple roles in the movie that he's not credited for.
Pretty sure, yeah.
Like I think he tries to go with like a Spanish accent, and he's one of those smaller penguins, not just the one
Yeah,
with the thing stuck on his head.
I think he is, yeah.
It's such a weird movie. I can't believe it was directed by the guy who made Mad Max. I can't comprehend.
That also actually almost makes it make a little bit of sense because the movie's so weird and it's so it isn't what you think it's going to be when it, as it goes. I don't know. It's the right flavor of weird maybe.
I haven't seen Happy Feet 2, but I need to see Happy Feet 2. Apparently. Do I need to see Happy Feet 2?
Well, you should just to take a break from Happy Feet 1.
Yeah, that's God, I need a break from it.
The kids aren't going to know the difference. Just put the second one on.
But no, they care about the environmental message. Does it carry on?
Yeah, in different ways. It has different messages that are strong. So,
Okay.
you know what? I'll give you and your kids Happy Feet 2 as a recommendation.
Okay.
All right.
Wait, one last thing. I saw Bohemian
last thing.
Rhapsody.
Oh, what'd you think? Since we talked about it already, I guess. But what'd you think?
I thought that it was good, but not great. I feel like it could have done a whole lot more with the story.
I think it's fun as a concert movie, but it's pretty cookie cutter as a biopic.
Yeah, it just felt like it played everything so like by the books. I don't know, like it didn't really. Is it a movie about the song Bohemian Rhapsody? Is it a movie about the band Queen, or is it a movie specifically about Freddie Mercury? I felt like it could never quite get that idea down of what it wanted to be. Or is it about the Live Aid concert that it has at the end, which is like the shining moment for the band? Like, I don't know. I don't know.
It's just it's none of that. It's just a songbook. It's just this is an excuse to go vaguely through the history of the band and play every song that they're known for. So it's entertaining in that right, but I don't feel like it's that much deeper than that.
Well, yeah, it's like why was it made if it's just going to be a direct adaptation in the same way that like the Disney live action movies are being made? It's like what is it trying to say? Is it saying something?
Yeah, I guess it's kind of similar train of thinking. Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's switch gears.
All
Unless
right.
you got anything else you want to share. Any more poop or pee stories?
Oh, I'll have more next week, so you can stay tuned.
Oh, stay tuned, listeners, next week for more stories from Vince.
Guilty as charged with the stories.
Stories. Sean, what have you been up to these days?
I've been pooping and peeing.
Listen,
all over
are
the
you
carpet.
are you potty training yourself?
No, I'm throwing off those shackles of the toilet, like I said.
Why does your toilet have shackles on it?
You've seen his
That's
bathroom.
just how I was trained. That's what I'm saying. Is that not how everyone else was trained?
Man, this is a complicated topic. What have you been up to recently, Sean?
I mainly TV. I haven't watched too many films in the last couple of weeks. Movie Pass is on the out and out. Although I did go see that movie Arctic a couple of weeks ago. Have you guys heard of that movie? It's Mads Mikkelsen, our man Mads. He's in the Arctic and he's getting cold. What's gonna happen?
That sounds like the worst.
It was pretty good. It's like a survival story. It's just like him surviving.
So he's in a movie called Arctic, but he's also in a movie called Polar.
Yes, I saw that on Netflix, and I'm like, wait, what is this? But the Arctic is in the theaters, and it was pretty good. It was entertaining, but it's like a survival story, so you know kind of what that is like, I guess.
Yeah.
So, that was a movie. And then I saw, mainly TV. So, same thing. I saw I watched second season Dragon Prince and finished Kimmy Schmidt, the final season Kimmy Schmidt.
Oh, yeah, good.
A couple other shows that I think were kind of out when we hadn't been posted for a while. But Umbrella Academy, I saw that. I don't know, has anyone else seen that movie or that show on
Not yet.
Netflix? It's
the superhero one? Is that the?
Yeah, it has some potential, and there's some moments that are entertaining, and in general, it's okay. But it just it felt like it was trying to be Legion, and just did not have the same charm or charisma. I can't really highly recommend it. I can't even really normally recommend it.
It was awful.
It's not bad. It's not bad though. I saw Russian Doll, which I can recommend. I did really like good. Russian Doll. That one's just a fun. It's not. I think it's only a couple of 8 episodes or something like that. But it's like a trippy kind of psychological drama comedy weird thing. In some ways, it reminds me of even Maniac. Like not plot wise or anything, but just some of the themes and even some of the character stuff. But that was really good. And then I saw, what else did I see? Oh, that show You. Have you guys heard of that show?
Yeah, I've heard of it. I haven't watched it yet. It's like a stalker show thing.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I liked it. I thought it was really good, but it's also like it's like this stalker, but they kind of film it and portray it almost like it's a romantic comedy. So yeah, it's just really interesting.
Okay.
But so that's what I've been watching. What else? I guess that's it. I don't know. I'm sure there's lots of things, like you said. It's been a couple weeks, but those are the things I remember anyway.
Well, TV-wise, I haven't been watching a lot of TV, but Maeve and I just did finish getting through King of the Hill, which was another... We did Simpsons last year, and then we did all 13 seasons of King of the Hill. I don't know if part of it was that we were finishing it when I was in the hospital or not, but that last season, I don't know if you guys... Are any of you guys King of the Hill fans?
I used to watch it pretty frequently, but I don't know if I remember any season. I don't know it well enough to know what season or what episodes when and that kind of thing, but we watched it pretty frequently.
Well, season 13, the second half of the season got really weird because every episode, some of them were in HD and some of them were in 4:3, and then every episode the characters were off model but in different ways, and then there were some episodes that were really dark and sinister that felt like they were written by people who had never worked on the show before, and every episode was just and I had to ask Maeve, this isn't because of the medication I'm on right now, this is weird, right? And she's like, yeah, no, these episodes are strange. And I don't know what happened in that final season, if budget cuts and they outsourced to, other countries or what, but I think it got strange. And then I guess they aired the episodes out of order, so the real season finale aired 5 or 6 episodes before it was supposed to.
What the heck?
And then the last episode that ended up airing was just some random episode about Khan. So, and even in Hulu, they never fixed it. They didn't put them in the right order, so...
So weird. Why, how... I mean, I've heard of other shows doing that, too, and that's happened. But, how does that happen?
Yeah, I don't know. But the whole thing was a mess, and there's been plenty of time to, for streaming, fix that kind of thing. Yeah. Or, I don't know, but it was just... It was very strange, and it kind of upsetting in a strange way that I can't quite articulate. But it was weird. But anyway... We're looking for something to watch next. We're actually, Ryan, I think it was Great News was your recommendation.
Yeah, I did start that too.
We were thinking about that might be our next one. We're not sure. Yeah. So other than that, you guys know I've been on medical leave from work, so I've had some time to kill. I've been spending that time seeing a lot of plays and playing a lot of Nintendo Switch. I saw a production of Guys and Dolls, which I'd never seen Guys and Dolls before. I'm not typically a big fan of classic musicals. Anything older than the 70s, I start to get my patience for old musicals kind of not so much. But I really liked it, and I thought it was really funny. The music was all right, but I thought the cast handled it well, but the music, was kind of old timey. But I was surprised how much I liked it, how funny it was. I saw a production of Once on This Island, a high school production, which I've worked on with my high school, and my sister was in when we were in high school, and the other school in the city just did it. So now all of the schools in my school district have done that show, so it's always fun seeing a show that I've seen multiple times to see how they stage it in different theaters. What else? I'm going to see Legally Blonde the musical at a local college this weekend. I've seen that. This is going to be my sixth different productions seeing it. I've seen the Broadway one. I've seen Moonlight do it. A high school do it. And I accidentally went to a youth production where there was not anybody older than like 17, which was really awkward and hilarious and like one of the most fun times I've had watching it for all the wrong reasons.
How do you accidentally go to a play?
Well, okay, when I first started dating Maeve, I had ranted to her about how much I loved the musical Legally Blonde, as you do when you first start dating somebody new.
Of course.
And she decided to surprise me one day because she saw that they were selling tickets for it at a really nice playhouse nearby that has like a professional facility, so she thought it was like a professional production. That same facility also has a side stage that's smaller that anybody can just rent out. And it turned out it was a youth production that had rented out the side stage. So we got all dressed up and fancy to go see this, like, what we thought was going to be a professional production of Legally Blonde. And there's at one point, there was a 3-4-year-old kid on the stage dressed as a bus driver, walking around in circles, not knowing where he was. The kid in the program was listed as the bus driver. There's no bus driver character in the musical Legally Blonde. So, that just to give paint, there's that character's not a real character. They just put some kid in a bus driver outfit and said, go walk around on the stage at one point. So that just to paint a picture, that was what we saw. It was hilarious for lots of reasons. And then I've seen it.
What?
I guess I get it, but sure, continue.
Wait, no. Don't continue yet. Sean, how do you get it? I want to know.
I'm trying not to think about it beyond just the basic sense imagery that Chewie is describing.
See, even that doesn't compute for me. Trying to think about it
beyond that, it doesn't make any sense.
Exactly.
It's like a Saturday Night Live sketch. What do you mean that they put a random person on them? How does it like?
No, there was a Saturday Night Live sketch specifically about bad youth productions of Legally Blonde. I don't know if you guys seen that SNL sketch.
I think I have, yeah.
Yeah, it was that. And when we saw that sketch, we were like, how did they know about the exact production that you and I went to on accident? Because it was the exact same thing.
But how did you, like, what, did he have lines?
No.
What do you mean he was wandering around, like, in the
I don't know.
trial scene?
They just put a bunch of kids on stage and said, do something that vaguely resembles Legally Blonde the musical.
All right, I don't think we should delve any deeper. We're touching on topics that, I don't know, should never be mentioned again. Continue, though.
Anyway, I hope my sixth time watching Legally Blonde is good. We'll see. But the other thing I've been doing, I mentioned that I got a Nintendo Switch. My friend Jose sold it to me at a very good price and threw in 2 games. And then I was in the hospital, so people gave me a bunch of free ones. So now I have a little library. I have Mario Odyssey, Breath of the Wild, Sonic Mania Plus, Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, and Mario Kart, and that's a nice little library there. But I've barely scratched the surface of Odyssey and Breath of the Wild, but like those games are worth the system just for that. I mean, I know I'm late to the boat on this. I'm kind of late to the party, but I can't, like, I am just so I've barely touched either. Like, I've played so much of each game, and I keep discovering things and finding things, and I have this weird sense of, like, just pride for Nintendo. Like, I feel like they kind of, like, I don't know, saying grew up or, like, joining the big boys sounds really condescending, but, like, I feel like Breath of the Wild is, like, an actual, like, these are what games are now, and, like, Nintendo did it and did it better than a lot of everyone else so far, you know, and this is me having barely played it. I don't know how you guys feel.
Yeah, I mean that's essentially exactly how I felt and feel. I mean, when it came out and stuff. I mean, it does very much feel like, to a certain, as much as I've always loved pretty much every single Zelda, there has always been recently this kind of sense of, like, it's not quite the same type and scale as, you know, as your whatever Skyrims
sure.
and Witchers and whatever, these big kind of epic fantasy adventure games or whatever, even more linear stuff. It just doesn't, it's not the same they're not in the same box, right?
Right.
With this came out and it just feels like, oh wow, they blew all of those other ones out of the water. Not strictly in sense of like, oh, you have to play it for 1,000 hours. Like, it's not so much about purely just hours or time spent in it, although you can spend that much time in there.
Right.
It's just like the whole design philosophy behind both of those games. I think Breath of the Wild more so than Mario, but both of them really. And just kind of, I don't know, how fresh, familiar, innovative, I don't know. I can't really rave too much, enough about those games.
Right,
I do think they're awesome.
Yeah, it's become my Switch has become my new favorite toy, and those games just feel magical when you play them. Magical is a good word for Mario too, because you find something and you go, oh man, this world, it's alive, it's full of magic. What am I going to find next? Anyway, yeah, that's been, when I've been not working on stuff for school from home to try to be productive, I've been spending a lot of Switch time, and boy, what a good product. I love it. What a fantastic little toy.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've actually been playing Final Fantasy IX. They re-released on the Switch.
I know. I've been watching.
Oh yeah, you see little
pops up.
Everyone,
we're friends.
Hey everyone, be our friends on Switch. Give us your friend code.
Actually, what he does is he goes up to Santa Monica and he watches it outside your window. So that's how he knows.
Yeah,
that's fair too. You could do that. But that's one of the reasons. That's one of my. It's just like, if there's now ever a choice between what platform, most games now are come out in every system. Mm-hmm. It's just like it's a no-brainer. I don't even think about it. It's like, yeah, I'm getting on Switch.
Yeah, I moved I had a bunch of games that were on my Steam library, and I'm like, I'm gonna buy this on the Switch because it's on sale, and I don't know, it just seems more convenient. I love it.
Yeah,
what a good idea.
Yeah. My friends,
good job, Nintendo.
Good job.
My friends have like an 80-inch screen, like TV, and they play the new Super Smash Brothers on there. I'm not too great at it, but my goodness, watching it in like full HD on this gigantic screen, it's like, it's insane. I mean, it's the perfect, brawl game. It really is.
Smash is also a good addition to any Switch library.
Yeah. Yes.
Ask us for more Switch recommendations if you're interested, listeners.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to, but that's okay. All right. Well, I think that's everybody. Let's go ahead and switch.
What about Chris? What's Chris been up to?
Someone make some kind of animal noise, because that's what Chris would do right now.
Aww.
Actually, Chris isn't here. Chris is protesting because of it's Pie Day today.
Yeah, whatever.
What does that mean? Is he eating pie? Is that what it means?
That's why, exactly. He doesn't know.
He doesn't eat pie. Not that he doesn't like pie. He doesn't eat pie.
Oh. Well, I don't know if I agree with that.
All right. Let's switch gears. But before we do, part of the terms of the agreement of this episode is that Vince gets to be on it if we make fun of him incessantly about it. Why are we making fun of Vince today?
Do I have to answer that, or do you guys want to answer?
No, we don't really need a reason. But...
All right. How many of us have seen the movie? I have.
Vince?
Guilty as charged.
What have you done, Vince?
Guilty. You have not seen it.
I've cleaned up poop, okay? You know what I've done, Chewy? That's what I've been cleaning up, some poop.
Well, maybe when we're reviewing Pooper Scoopers, we'll ask you to be on the podcast.
All right.
I think Brendan Fraser's in that movie, Pooper Scoopers.
I'm correct. I'm correct in saying that Vince has read the plot synopsis and knows the beats of the story, but that's it, right?
Yeah, that's
have
it.
Have you done that?
Yeah.
Done that?
No, yeah, I get that.
He spoiled the movie for himself, but
oh my god.
But still has absolutely no way of reviewing it.
So any time that Vince expresses any sort of opinion on this podcast, whether it be about Captain Marvel or not, you can disregard it entirely.
Anyway, Vince, you're going to keep your input reasonable. You're going to crack a reasonable amount of jokes, and you're not going to ask us questions about the plot or anything that happens in the movie. Do you agree to these terms?
I solemnly swear that I am up to no good.
Excellent. Okay. Well, in that case, I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to Sean, who's going to lead this conversation because he's much better than I am at these things.
Well, I don't know about that, but I'll lead this conversation. Oh, I'll do it.
All right.
But before we start the conversation, so spoilers. Yeah, Vince, I guess you've already read the plot.
Yeah.
So who cares about you? But everyone else, if you care about spoilers and haven't seen the film, stop listening now.
Just don't listen to the rest of it. That's what the rest of this episode's going to be. Come back later. What? Listen after you've seen the movie. All right.
Yeah, do that too. And actually, potential. Just side note, potential for spoilers for any MCU movie.
Sure.
Just in case you may have missed another MCU movie here or there, and we're planning on seeing at some point. Most likely, we will get into details of the entire universe. So, just a heads up there.
Great. Let's do it.
All right, Captain Marvel. I guess I'll start. My initial thoughts, and we'll kind of go around and see what everyone thoughts. I liked it, didn't love it. It was, to me, it was kind of the middle of the road in terms of the Marvel films. I liked Brie Larson. I think my favorite actually was Ben Mendelsohn. I liked him a lot.
Yeah.
I like some of the thematic stuff, and I think overall the second half was much stronger than the first half. But ultimately, I feel like it was just kind of meh in a lot of ways. That sounds a lot more negative than I think I'm intending it to be, but I think that kind of encapsulates a lot of my broad feelings, and we'll get into details. But those are my thoughts.
Fair enough.
Chewy, what do you think?
Well, it took me a little while to get into the movie. And I think that, and something we can come back to, I think there's a conversation to be had about how some of the nonlinear elements of how they told the story, and whether they worked or not. But it took me personally a little while to get invested. For me, it was very like, this is a lot of sci-fi stuff. This is some Star Trek-y stuff, and I don't know what's at stake between these races, and I don't know where we are in space, and then once I kind of through most of the first act, I got on board, and I ended up loving the rest of the movie. I think the movie's definitely flawed. I think that there's some stuff that doesn't really work, and there's things that you can hash out. But at the end of the day, the movie grew on me, and by the end of it, I was 100% on board. I was super into it. And so, average everything out, I think I'd probably put it somewhere in the middle with the Marvel canon, probably edging more towards the top half, though. I really ended up landing in a good place with it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I agree with both of you guys. Middle of the road in terms of the MCU films, which, I hate always saying that because, you can't put them all at the top, which most of them are really, really good.
Right.
So even saying middle of the road means it's a good time. For me anyway. So I did like it, but I didn't love it. I think I was a little disappointed I walked out not liking it as much as I wanted to like it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get that. I kind of thought that too.
Yeah, because one, I like Brie Larson, and I did like her in this film. I thought the movie, like, she was better than the movie was, if that makes sense.
I kind of think so too, yeah.
So I kind of had this thought where I don't know if it was a miscast. Like, I don't think she was miscast because I think she was really good, but I just felt maybe the writing or / directing. I felt like the filmmakers didn't know quite what they wanted to do with her. And, if that makes sense. But I think
I 100% agree. I 100% agree. I know what you mean. In fact, I felt like it's like the tone of the movie didn't match her. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know if the movie was taking itself too seriously and she was trying to be playful, or it felt like a little bit of a
vice
mismatch.
versa sometimes.
It felt like to me is that, like, the writing for her character needed a little bit more capable hands because it felt a little lost, and I felt like she was doing a lot of course correction at a given time to try to take these, because she's written differently in different scenes a little bit, and I feel like she's working overtime trying to get this character to mesh together in a consistent way, and that's one of the flaws I kind of felt, is that her character is a little inconsistent from moment to moment, but it's not of any fault of her. I think if anything, she's probably driving the character in a more consistent way.
I completely agree. Yeah,
I think it just, like you're saying, it kind of she's kind of course correct, and I think in the end it kind of makes the character feel a little bit undefined and just kind of like a kind of a mishmash of ideas and kind of motivations, whereas any given scene or moment, she as an actress is like, I get it, I know why she's doing this, and she's really good,
right?
But just your general sense of Carol Danvers is just kind of like, I don't really get a good sense of who this character is, or at least as strong as I was hoping for, I guess.
Right. It's not a train wreck, but it's not where I want it to be.
Exactly.
Yeah. and I don't know if this is a fair statement, but Matt saying that the story or her character felt a little mishmash or whatever. But like looking at the credits, it was like there was like something like 5 writers for the screenplay or something. So I feel like if it was in too many hands, maybe it lacked a consistent vision, and that might not be fair because I don't know what it looked like in the writers' room. But yeah. And I think just one other, I guess, as a just kind of like the overall feeling, it felt like a lot of the scenes didn't play out the way they thought they were going to. Like it, and I'm going to say editing was the problem with that. Like it just, I feel like you could have gone back and retweaked this a little bit, like cut this shorter, make this longer, and you would have gotten better play out of certain scenes. And like the scene I'm going to cite right here is the scene where Ben Mendelsohn at the end, where it was supposed to be a humorous moment. Or I guess it was, but where, Nick Fury gets his eye scratched, right? We all, we all knew it was going to come, but whatever. And he's like, oh, and, he makes some comment like, oh, it's just a scratch, no big deal. And it cuts to, Ben's character, and he says, no. And then it cuts to like another scene. And it took the audience in my theater about a full second to realize, oh, he was saying no in response to the thing that Fury said. We're supposed to laugh at that.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys...
I don't remember that specific example. The thing is, I do remember I remember a weird feeling from that scene, but I don't remember that specific cut. But that's probably what it was.
Yeah.
But I totally do, and I get what you're saying, because I do think there was kind of throughout the film, there was a couple of moments where it was just like, were they trying to punch up the joke and it just didn't?
Missed.
And it fell flat? Right. Or what were they trying to do there?
And for me, I'm kind of like, if something's off in a movie and I can't quite put my finger on it, like what's not working here? I usually start thinking like, oh, is it the editing? And that's kind of where I'm at. Like I kind of look in that direction, like, oh, something isn't working for me. It's just something is a little off in all the scenes. I mean, on top of all the other issues we've already mentioned. Right. But yeah,
I think you might have hit upon something, because you were talking about how you think some of the scenes didn't play out the way they thought they did, and I was thinking there was 1 or 2 action scenes specifically where they felt, for lack of a better term, soggy. Like they weren't quite hitting. They weren't quite hitting as hard. They weren't quite. Yeah. It was a little laggy in the pacing, and that was something I noticed in a couple of the like run down the halls, fighting, dipping, dodging scene. The one particularly where they're going into the Area 51-ish facility. Yeah, there were a couple moments where it just kind of soggy is the word that I'm looking for, and I think overall there's an editing. There's some kind of editing thing going on.
But I like that term.
I do too. Like I don't know if I would have used that word myself ever, but it kind of does capture.
Yeah. So I think maybe there might be this could have gone through another edit and maybe been a little bit snappier and picked it up. It wasn't a big detriment to the movie for me, because I think for the most part the action set pieces worked, and also train fight.
I did like the train. I like that whole sequence, one, because I live in LA and I take the train very often. Yeah. So it's always cool just to see something in a movie that you're familiar with, because we're all petty, silly human beings. So that was fun.
We made a big deal in Korracast when Legend of Korra did a train fight. Ryan, I don't know if you remember us screaming train fight.
Oh yeah.
But I yelled out train fight in the middle of the theater during this movie when train fight happened. I hope you appreciate that.
I do. I very much do.
Okay.
I regret not doing it in my audience.
Oh, yeah, that's okay. We would have done, if we had seen it together, it would have happened at the same time. That would have been a magical moment.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's all right.
So, kind of a couple general thoughts that I had that I think kind of helped define a little bit why some of the things that didn't quite work for me is, as much as I liked Brie Larson, I think the character of Carol Danvers was a little ill-defined, but I think the film in a lot of levels worked a little bit more so as the connective tissue of an MCU piece,
right?
Than standing so much on its own. And I know, and this isn't actually a criticism, honestly, because I do think I think we get so bogged down, like, does the movie stand on its own? Well, if not, it's not good. And I don't really think that's a valid criticism, especially in the day and age of MCU or CUs.
Well, that's the thing is
things and sequels. I mean, a sequel on its own doesn't necessarily have to stand on it. Like, what does that even mean?
Right. Well, we used to be able to have to think about that, but MCU is a new thing. There's not been a series that's gone on this long, so we have to maybe redefine our rules for this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and honestly, if you're going strictly by those types of definitions and some sort of measurement as if something is good based solely on that, or that being a huge factor, like Infinity War, I don't think anyone's going to argue that stands on its own, right? So, but I don't think that detracts or makes it any less of a film. And I think to an extent the same with this.
Right.
The one issue I have, though, and this is kind of I don't know what you guys think, is that so if you know the MCU, you kind of already know all the plot, quote unquote, plot twists that are going to happen. You know who the Kree are. You know some of these characters as bad guys. So I feel like the film in a kind of small way is trying to have it both ways. And that's where it kind of bristled with me. Where it's like, wait, are you wanting us to be surprised when we find out Jude Law is a bad guy? But
I think,
but you're also relying on us knowing about the MCU. So which is it? Like, how do you want us to react to this?
I don't know. I think I think I may be on the opposite side of you here, because I feel like for most people watching these movies, like the vast majority, I don't think they're necessarily going to remember who the Kree are, or the fact that the guy on their team was the guy at the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy. Things like, I think those are things that most people need to be reminded of, and they go, oh, right, okay, yeah, I kind of remember that. I think that stuff, maybe. I think if you're really invested in this, and you're someone who gets really into it, I think you deserve to know, you know what I mean? Like, you figured it out. Cool, you were paying attention. This is your reward. You kind of are able to see how these things link together. I feel like it's a different dynamic depending on how into the MCU you are, because a lot of people are just casual watchers and will probably forget about the movie until the next one they see, you know?
Yeah, actually...
sorry, go.
I just want to kind of... I like the word reward there, because that's sort of how I describe a lot of these MCU movies, or just... I guess nerd movies, or I don't know what you want to call them, but movies that are driven from an otherwise, deeper place of lore. Like looking at the recent Spider-Man film, Spider-Verse, right? You don't have to know everything about Spider-Man or the extended universe to get and enjoy the film, but you're rewarded for every piece of knowledge that the movie references that the general audience doesn't know, right? And I think that's kind of the way I think about it. It's like you're rewarded, but you're not. It's kind of like finding a secret in a video game. You can complete the game without ever finding that secret, but you feel a sense of reward when you find it, right?
Right.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. And I agree with all of that. I guess what I'm saying is that I think it kind of undercuts it if it's an like rewarding is one thing, and adding context and a little bit of back knowledge and like, oh, I get it. But I think that if it's undercutting an emotional beat of the film that the arc and characters are reliant upon, I think that kind of goes across the line. It's no longer a reward. You're undermining some of what the film is ultimately trying to do, right? So I agree that the Kree and some obscure, but things like Ronan, like I don't think that was as much, like when you see Ronan is on the same side as Jude Law, I was like, oh wait, he's obviously a bad guy. Like, I mean, I guess they are a little bit more obscure, and so you're right. There are definitely people who it works for them, and that emotional payoff, it's still valid. But I guess I think there's enough of the audience that to me, and again, it's more of a question. I'm not saying it's purely a bad thing. It was just something that I definitely was aware of, and it's just like, I wonder how this plays in the general audience.
Right.
So,
hey, I got a question for you guys.
Sure, what's up?
Go.
So if you were to because I think that this movie also is kind of unfairly placed in the MCU in terms of the quality that we are currently receiving in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and also just where it's at the finish line of.
How would you know if it's unfair if you haven't seen it, Vince?
So let me finish what I'm saying. I get what you're saying, because you're right, I haven't seen it. But what I'm trying to say is, if you look at like the other, standalone movies that we've had, I mean, this isn't like Iron Man 2. And it's not like the Incredible
Well, that's what
Hulk.
I'm saying. Is that I do think it's comparable to me, it lines up pretty easily, not easily, but with Ant-Man or the first Captain America. Like, I probably like this more than the first Captain America.
Me too.
And even the first Thor. Like, I agree that, it's the first
it's an origin story
iteration of this character. The origin story.
My question was, because it's hard to putting it in between Infinity War and Endgame when those like people just want to know what happens after
Yeah.
Infinity War. Everybody does.
I actually want to address that because I was going to talk about that a little bit earlier and I forgot. But we were talking about just kind of like the payoff and finding these things out when we already know information from other movies, like with the Kree and whatnot. I was going to say that this movie in particular feels very prequel-y, not a Star Wars prequel-y, but what I mean is that they jump around in the timeline with these movies, but this one specifically felt like a prequel in the Marvel universe, and I can't pinpoint another movie in the timeline that really feels like it was built as a prequel.
Okay. And that kind of is my actual question. Kind of was, if you were to take this movie and place it on the MCU timeline, other than where it is right now, where would you put it?
Oh, that's a really good question.
You mean just chronologically?
When it would show
it would be the first one.
Like
it would be
wouldn't it actually be
chronologically, Captain America, then this one. That's if you're trying to watch them in timeline order. But I think what you're asking is that because I've always wondered about this, because people argue just with Star Wars, they argue about if you're trying to get into the MCU for the first time, is there a specific order? And I'm wondering. I have always been of the opinion watch them in release order, but there are some people that say do them chronologically. There are some people that say make a couple moves. It's kind of like the machete order for Star Wars, and that's the thing. And I have to. This is the movie so far that I think for the most part it doesn't really matter, but this is the one that kind of throws the wrench into the equation for me.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I don't know if I would.
I do think this would be better if you had watched it without seeing a lot of these other films.
I don't know. That's the thing. I'm not really sure.
I don't know.
I've been thinking about that, but I'm not sure where I land on if it would be better or worse if you removed it or if you knew everything.
What if you had only seen Guardians of the Galaxy, like the first Guardians of the Galaxy?
Well, this one pairs surprisingly well with Guardians of the Galaxy.
Actually,
thematically.
This film, I think, like I said earlier, I think it works to me on a level. It works better on the level of just the connective tissue of the Marvel universe, because it does a really amazing or interestingly good job of blending the street level kind of superhero of some of the Marvel films with the cosmic of the films. Right, that's what I mean. Like Ant-Man, in a lot of ways, it felt like an Ant-Man. Like it's just this one kind of person, and she's doing her thing, and they're just like going through offices and stuff, but then there's a giant space monster, like fleet that's going to destroy the planet, and it still all makes sense in the context of this film, whereas usually the other films are one or the other.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. I did feel that way, absolutely.
Do you think this is a good move? Like, are you more excited or less excited leading into Endgame?
I'm more excited.
Okay.
About the same. I
think equal. Yeah.
Too much.
No, I think part of it was the build for me because, and I don't know how much of this aspect of the plot you want to get into, but that she gets criticism for the same reason that Superman gets criticism, because she's just super overpowered. Yeah. But the movie doesn't start her there. The movie as an arc, it has her grow in a realistic, I felt, pace, so that when she's really powerful at the end of the movie, it's a payoff, and for me it was satisfying. So just as a singular movie unit, you go, oh man, okay, this is what she's capable of, this is what's going on. And so for me, I'm like, oh, I'm excited to see her in the next time I see her.
Actually, I do have a lot of thought, because honestly, when I first saw it, I was just like, she became so powerful that I kind of lost any sense of of threat or any, it's like, oh, okay, well, I guess what's at stake anymore? She could just do whatever she wants. And I don't know if it was because partially kind of how she got her powers, because I didn't really I didn't feel like earned, not that she didn't do something to get her powers, but it just felt like such a weird happenstance of how she got her powers. Mm-hmm. And I even went online to look to see in the comics, and I couldn't find a good answer of how Captain Marvel gets her powers in the comics. But it just felt like, oh, okay, I guess she just stood next to an explosion, and now she's the most powerful thing in the entire universe. Okay. But the more I thought about it, I was like, why am I bristling so much at how she got her powers, or why I think she's so powerful? And I think part of it is because they try to do it all in one film, or I haven't grown to know this character as much, so I'm just not as attached to her as a character. So Whereas, like, with Thor, so
Thor,
by
yeah.
the end of Infinity War, Thor was maybe one of my favorite characters and not my favorite Avenger, just because I've grown so much with him. But it's kind of the same thing. Like, what is Thor's weakness? By the end of the films, he just is kind of invulnerable, right?
Right, yeah.
Right? Like, he can't fly around, I guess, but, like, everything you throw at him, he basically just survives.
Right.
And, he's a god. He breathes. And, like, so there is a sense of power creep throughout these films, but when I was okay with it with, like, Thor or even some of the other characters, it felt like, oh, yeah, that's fine, because that's my old friend. He's earned it. He's gone through this. Whereas this is just, like, I haven't been around her as much or as much time, so it just felt like I don't know how to really explain it, but I haven't had that emotional journey, so it doesn't match the power. The power.
Right.
And
I actually would kind of disagree with you with what you said about Thor. In my opinion, I actually feel like there's never been a moment now where Thor has felt more vulnerable. Like,
he's felt more emotionally vulnerable, but I just think physically, like what can kill Thor?
I mean, if we're going based off the first, I mean, when he had Mjolnir, you thought that was like an invincible weapon that could just destroy anything. I would say Ragnarok started shattering that idea of Thor as an invincible character. Infinity War definitely backed that idea up with the way that...
I'm not saying I think that's part of it. I think you're getting to the point of what I'm saying is that I've seen Thor vulnerable as a character, so I'm more forgiving of him as like this physically invulnerable thing, because I know he's been weak and he's torn down and all this stuff. So when he breathes in space and withstands the power of a sun, to me, I don't really mind that as much or question like, how could he survive that? Because I've seen him in his lowest. Whereas with Carol Danvers, she's destroying entire fleets, and I personally did not feel like I've been on that same emotional journey with her.
Yeah.
That's just me. That's just what I'm saying. So anyway, I don't know if
that's the thing. That's what makes it so hard about having an origin story like this right before Endgame. Mm-hmm. It's like if Carol Danvers was given the amount of screen time that Thor has been given, perhaps you could get there. But we're about to reach the end of all of these characters' journeys that we've been on for 10 years, and Carol Danvers' journey has just gotten started for us. It's like you can't reach that emotional point yet because we haven't been with her long enough.
Yeah. No, I kind of actually agree with all of you. I think one thing that may have helped us get to that point of like accepting her omnipotence would be like maybe make this movie a little longer, maybe shorten some other times, and let her go back to the Kree world and like in some respects get her like revenge or something. Actually, that doesn't make sense. You probably do it as a sequel or something, right? Let her go through Thor's path and get stronger once she has her sequel or something, and then bring her back to the final one. I don't know. That's an entirely different concept. But I do agree with you that we didn't really get to see her earn maybe her powers. And for me, I think a lot of the I don't know, maybe not confusion, but just comes from the fact that I don't really understand what her powers are. Like, they're not really ever defined.
Definitely part of it too.
And I mean, that's to say, like, oh, well, what's Thor's power? Well, I don't know. I mean, I think I know what He's just a super duper strong dude, and he has a super powerful weapon, and he's the god of thunder. Okay, that's I think enough. We can see him do what he does, and that through demonstration tells me what his powers are. But her, she can shoot fire things out of her hands.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of similar to like, I guess, like the whole. He's the closest, or she's the closest thing to like the Hulk in terms of how they got their powers. Right? It was an accident that they just obtained these powers, and they aren't sure. Like the Hulk, because I mean.
Well, no, I mean the Hulk. Everyone knows what the Hulk.
Yeah,
he's
we now know like his
super duper powerful, but or just strong, just physical strength.
Well, we don't know the limits technically, right, to the Hulk's power. Like it's technically.
Yeah, but he's not shooting things out of his hands.
He's not shooting laser beams.
And then all of a sudden she can fly, and she can then just withstand any sort of attack against her. And then all of a sudden she's just smashing through fleets. Like, you know what I mean? Like, she's just Superman that can shoot.
Yeah,
blasters?
I think the funny thing too is that like I mean I get what you're saying. Like if she is Superman, I think I would be a little bit like okay, I get it. But even Superman, I could tell you what Superman's powers are, right? I think we all could, right? But I couldn't tell you what her powers are.
Exactly. So I
think other than just like generals, she's powerful.
Right. So I think that to me was one thing that, it didn't, because they didn't develop it, right? They never like spent time in the movie really kind of showing us what she can do. you know what I mean? Like building it up. It's just kind of, it all happens in the last 5 minutes. So,
yeah, that's what I was trying to get to. Like I said, I was looking in kind of on the wikis and stuff about what her power. And the funny thing is, it's even pretty vague in the comics. It sounds like what her powers are. But the other thing too is there's been like so many Captain Marvels, and so it's also just kind of confusing in terms of, in that regard too. So
okay.
there's been like 7 or 8 different Captain Marvels. So.
Oh wow. Well, one thing. This is just coming from a friend who actually was just messaging me while we were on the podcast, but he was saying that her, like, quote unquote true power is her quote unquote perseverance. Like, I don't know, I guess every hero has to have like a physical manifestation of their power, like flight, and then like an emotional power, if that makes sense. So it felt like he was disappointed to see that they didn't really address her emotional power. And
I think they tried to do it in a way, because they were, you know, during the montage when she fights the AI, there's that the montage of her standing, right? That was supposed to be the physical, visual metaphor of her perseverance, because that's the time then that everything comes together for her. And I think that's probably what they were trying to maybe go for, just kind of the internal strength, you know, and it didn't need to be spelled out, you know, because I mean, I've been quiet about this, but I don't really care what specifically her powers are. In this, I
mean, I don't care so much. To me, it's more a reflection of how my emotional connection to
and
her. It's just that's the only reason I care. Really.
Right, and that's the thing is for me, how I mentioned earlier, how the movie built and then kind of like it was satisfying at the end, and it's part of it for me is that like it, you know, what she can do is pretty vague, but it was that kind of the culmination of, you know, her character arc being the thing that unlocked everything. So then for me, I'm going like, yeah, all right, I'm rooting for you, and also you're kicking butt, and visually this is fun, and it's a fun little roller coaster, you know, finale. It's like, you know, little reward. I don't know. That's how I felt.
I mean, I think that to me it worked best on like when I wasn't thinking about too much her character, because like I said, I did have issues with the character, but I do think thematically it kind of worked on the idea that, like, you know, we constantly, you know, limit ourselves and constrain ourselves because of other people's limitations, or we often define ourselves based on other people's limitations, and you know, if we didn't do that, we would be, you know, capable of so much more. So I think that works, I think, in a lot of ways, but I think it didn't always hit the clarity I was hoping for in like these big superhero films, where I definitely appreciate subtlety in any film, but I think, you know, in you know, big superhero films, the kind of thematic message is sometimes just like, you know, give me a little bit more of a focus on that and how it pertains specifically to the character I'm following. And that stand-up montage hit, I think visually was the key part where that kind of hit to that. But I think it just wasn't backed up in a lot of the, just like the rest of the filling of the scenes and her interactions with a lot of the other characters. It never really felt like those elements were really at play. And
that's
fair. It could just be my personal, you know, a lot of stuff I'm missing out on. I appreciate that too.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to disagree that all of those moments could have been fleshed out a little bit more earlier in the movie, so that montage unedited could have hit a little bit harder. Yeah. I would have liked to see that, because again, I think her character development is probably the thing that if you tweaked that, it would, a lot of the stuff in this movie would fall into place.
I agree.
Yeah, exactly.
This is a small side note, but did you guys think it was kind of like, dude, that's not cool when she's telling her friend who has a mother and a family, like, yeah, come up here and risk your life, and just, I thought like, that too. I was like, her friend in front of her daughter,
she has
like,
a daughter.
Don't be a coward. Come up here.
Yeah, that was.
It was kind of played for laughs, and it really wasn't that important. But it was kind of like, really. Like,
yeah. Well, I thought the same thing.
Yeah, a little bit, but I don't know. I was actually, from a philosophical standpoint, I was pretty on the fence. I don't know. I was pretty in the middle. I'm not sure which is the more morally acceptable decision to make there. You know.
Like bringing her friend, like, who knows, that could get the job done to save everyone.
Right, yeah. Or leave her because she's a mother. I don't know. I honestly not sure where I stand. It's good.
That's true. Is it utilitarian? Do you change the train to the other track and
exactly
kill the one person or save
While we're calling out specific scenes, since we were talking earlier about about establishing her strength with the stand-up montage. I want to swing the other end of the pendulum on that theme. So I'm Just a Girl was a little on the nose, don't you think?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Oh yeah.
I actually loved that scene, but while I was watching it, because I'm a No Doubt fan and I love that song, and I'm like, this is fun and this is a fun action scene. So I actually loved that scene, but while I was watching it, I was also thinking, like, if I was in a pitch meeting for this scene and someone pitched this, I would say, yeah, we're not doing that. That's
yeah.
Yeah, no,
I know
what
exactly
felt like? What you mean.
It felt like a DC film.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
But again,
Right?
specifically for me, it worked because I like the song.
Yeah.
But it's a little too on the nose for the what they're trying to do there, I think.
Yeah, I felt that scene was the worst violator. I thought the "Come as You Are" scene
That works for me.
worked.
Yeah.
It worked. It worked just fine for me. It was, again, I felt like a little heavy-handed. But the Just a Girl was definitely on the nose. In fact, I kind of felt like that whole scene existed just to have that song play. Because it was like, why is she fighting these guys? They never really were established characters. Do I care about her conflict with them? No, I don't. Like, let's just give her a scene where she could beat up a bunch of people.
we needed a good fight scene at the end. So
okay, all right, here you go.
I guess
beat these guys up.
I guess without it, the pacing probably, because they spent a lot of time talking on that ship, and they probably needed to break some things up a little bit.
Yeah, and the whole tension in the scene with the lunchbox is like, wait, you showed us it's not in there. There's no tension.
Right,
what are you trying to do with this scene? So I didn't. That scene didn't. It was a fun scene, but it overall didn't.
The smarter part of my brain goes, no, this wasn't good, but
Yeah.
but I'm overwhelmingly feeling.
Well, you know what? It just kind of clashed because the rest of the film, like, you had these '90s songs, and it seemed to be more establishing mood and kind of hitting our nostalgia, and like, okay, it kind of works on that level. But I like a pop song during a fight scene. It just
Suicide Squad.
Yes,
yeah,
that's why I said DC film, but it
Right.
reminded me so much of Suicide Squad, and it just like, yeah. Anyways,
Yeah.
but
You know what, Marvel, I'll let you have one. I'm gonna let you have this.
I mean,
one.
honestly,
just don't do it again for a while.
If that's our biggest criticism, it's not that bad. Like,
They should have a scene in Endgame where they're all beating up Thanos, and it's played to All Star by Smash Mouth.
That's the only way this can end.
That's
the only way.
Actually, I was thinking about I think one of the reasons maybe the kind of culmination of her powers at the end didn't also kind of hit that sweet spot for me is because the villain in this film was not great.
No, yeah, I'll agree with you there.
Yeah.
And so it didn't feel as cathartic when, like, because it was just Jude Law, kind of, and he was just a guy.
Yeah.
So I was just like,
some guy.
I mean, that scene when she shoots him is good. I like that scene, and I think that was one of my favorite moments, actually.
Yeah. Entertaining.
Yeah, that was
I think
good.
just it worked on so many levels. I think that's where the payoff thematically really, worked for me and stuff. But ultimately, him as a character and just like, it is like, I don't know, he was not that great, especially after coming off like Thanos and Killmonger and some of these better villains we've had, at least better defined for sure. It was just like,
what do you think about whatever Ronan showing up at the end? Like, at first I thought, I was like, oh, this might be kind of interesting, and that her just kind of like going Uber mode, Super Saiyan, and just going crazy. Obviously, it gave her a reason to do that, which was very satisfying and awesome.
It was fun. Yeah,
but his right? Like, so all that was gold stars. But then his little line, like, I'm coming back for the weapon, for the girl. But going back to Sean's point about they're kind of relying on the audience to know what happens, and the fact that that doesn't happen in any way whatsoever fell so flat for me.
Well, here's the thing.
It was like, what?
I agree with you on that level, because I did think about the fact that he meets his end in Guardians of the Galaxy, which we've already seen.
Right.
But at the same time, I also feel like this functions as a sequel or as a prequel, I mean. It's written as a prequel because I feel like if we got another Captain Marvel, it would happen in the time from when she left Earth till she shows some unspecified time.
Yeah.
Because apparently Endgame, that will be the first time she comes back to Earth since this happened, which means she's out on the other side of space doing who knows what. That could still be... he could still be her villain if they made Captain Marvel 2 take place during that time gap, which I would be fine with.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, I would be okay with that.
I'd be okay with that.
But
yeah.
you're right. If they have Captain
Good
Marvel 2,
point.
just while things are out in space, just like
Why not?
Guardians or whatever.
And then that's actually kind of an interesting way to do more phases in this universe, because they do a whole parallel. It's not a parallel timeline. It's literally what's been happening all along the whole normal timeline in another part of space, and then you get really cosmic, and you could go all the way back. We already have. We're in the 90s. You could be doing stuff that's happening parallel to all the movies that we've already seen. You could literally go back to the beginning of the timeline and do this. Here's what else is happening. That would be a really interesting way to do more another phase. You know what I mean? And then they don't have to think about what the next big Thanos thing is for a while.
That would be cool. That would be interesting, especially if they get if they do get the rights to like Fantastic Four, who in the comics are always about like. They have the potential to go on these cosmic things, like you know what I mean? Like just down the line years, you can incorporate a couple other things that are interesting. Also, it might help make it a little bit more plausible that like Nick Fury hasn't called her in 30 years.
Exactly.
Like, did anyone else feel like? I mean, I get it. I know what you got to do as a film. I know what you got to do, but I was like,
especially so in. You'll have to remind me. So in Avengers 1, it's the Kree, right? Or is it the Skrull?
It's that
attack.
It's the Chitauri.
Alien.
It's Chitauri. They're not
Chitauri
related.
They're on
neither.
They're on loan from
Thanos
and Loki or whatever.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, they're on.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, I was thinking that he would have called her for that if it was like a galactic threat that he already knew about.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, perhaps,
okay.
but
all right.
They were on it. They handled it.
What did you guys think of this CG work on Sam Jackson to make him look young?
Actually, that was good.
You know what? I thought
it was really good.
I think overall, and this is part of the conversation I was having with Maeve later on, because she's not really into this, so we talk a lot about like how easy is this movie to watch if you're not haven't seen any of most of the Marvel movies. We always talk about that, but I think I was really not sure with this one, and we all talked about it a little while ago, but I think part of the redeeming things for if you haven't been up on your Marvel lore is that Sam Jackson and Brie Larson have such great banter and chemistry. I feel like it's strong on its own because of like they're the core of the movie, and they really work for me. I mean, Nick Fury doesn't even seem like Nick Fury. He's a completely unique character for this movie, and it was so much fun getting to know that character and watching him banter with Carol. Like, I don't know, that for me is like where the movie kind of holds it together.
I enjoyed that quite a bit. Yeah. And I think the movie, if you take in the second half, then when you throw Ben Mendelsohn into it, he becomes like this oddly unexpected humorous element. And I kind of feel like they made a mistake in doing a switcheroo, and that they should have had him been part of the team earlier on in the film, because I felt like there could have been more opportunities, especially since obviously the plot had to work the way it did.
I mean, maybe, but then what we got was a Zuko situation. Enemy, and now he's our friend. Oh, he's our ally now. What new resources do we have? I don't know. That's how it worked for me.
Yeah, no, I mean, right. The plot had to work the way it did for a lot of reasons. I just because I think I really liked his character, like just like a ton, and so when he became part of the team, I was just like, oh man, I wish this is how it was the whole time. They would have been this crazy trio, and I guess a little bit sometimes this movie it worked okay, so I'm not gonna really fault it. But the whole trope of, hey, do you want to just talk about this? Now let's immediately resolve things with battle and subterfuge, like that whole thing. Like, I mean, I'm gonna forgive this movie because not every movie, but plenty of things have done it before. So,
also, is it weird that? I always think it's weird when they have like like Ben Mendelsohn. Like I said, how much I thought he was great in this, but that he's in the makeup for most of the movie, but he was the human. He's the human guy for a little while there. Isn't it strange that like anytime they have they obviously are doing it because it's Ben Mendelsohn. They want him to play that character the whole time, but like, why would he turn into his human form from like? Why wouldn't he just be another guy? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I was just thinking about that.
I'm not gonna think about that. It's
that's okay.
It's fine.
Because he turned into these other people who were clearly other people, but then when he was that guy, he just like, what would I look like as a human? This is me and human.
Let him
Anyways.
express his creativity. He needs an outlet.
What was I gonna say? Oh, well, the other thing, well, kind of what you're tapping on too is kind of the comic bookiness and just kind of the action, like you were saying, Ryan, too. And I think just kind of going back to the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe, it's funny or interesting to think about how far it's come, because we think of the Marvel MCU now as this big, flamboyant, colorful, blasty, comic booky thing, and somehow they've turned it into this exactly or very close to what we've always wanted the comics adaptations to be, or if we ever were to imagine it. But if you go back to the original Iron Man, it's actually pretty grounded, right?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
I remember, right?
Yeah,
and how far they've been able to come. Like it was no Nolan Dark Knight or anything like that, but it was like this was a grounded superhero film. It was plausible, and every iteration since then, it's like, I don't know, are the audience is going to buy Captain America with a super serum? I don't know. And yeah, of course, is the audience going to buy Thor, this weird god? And, they've just been gradually upping the ante into turning it into what it is. But it started, and it's a very, very grounded, gritty, plausible, just like, yeah, that's just reality. It's not superpowers or craziness. It's just this normal reality.
I built a robot suit.
I don't know. It's just yeah, exactly. And to come like this full thing where you literally now just have like a Superman character,
shape-shifting
better than the DC Superman version.
Yeah.
Good thing Chris isn't here. Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can say whatever we want about DC. Go crazy.
Take that, Aquaman. Well, let's see. Is there anything else? Anything else that people?
No,
I think
I've pretty much expressed most of my thoughts on this film.
Yeah.
I like I said, solid. Enjoyed it. Not at the top, not at the bottom. And again, I think it's pretty astounding that even some people are putting this lower on their list, but even the lower ones on the Marvel canon list are still good movies. They're still competently made, if nothing else, and that's pretty incredible. So. Another at minimum another one of those for this, but I think I liked it a little bit more than average, probably. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I think we covered most of my notes or things.
Cool. Yeah, I agree pretty much. And since the time of recording, do we? I'm just going to throw it out. We don't have to talk about it, but the new Avengers trailer did drop.
Yeah,
Ryan, you have not watched it, though.
Indeed, it did. No, I watched it.
Let's
you did watch it?
Yeah, I had you guys be quiet.
Yeah, we were, it was a whole thing.
Sorry, okay.
Let's spend maybe 5 to 10 minutes-ish talking about
I know,
that.
I just wanted to talk about it.
Vince, what was your initial impression of it?
Well, I'm actually really excited for what they're doing, because as somebody who actively follows these kind of big events like this, I mean, if it's for Star Wars, Game of Thrones, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Avengers, I unfortunately will spoil myself by watching things that I know I shouldn't, because it hypes me up a lot for the movie. But Avengers has found a way to really not show any of the plot at all. I really don't know where the movie is going to go or what's going to happen to any of these characters, and still be able to show us something, give us something to kind of give us a little nibble, a little treat. And so these two trailers have really shown me all my favorite characters, and I still don't know what's going to happen. It's the most hype I think I've ever had for a movie while also knowing nothing about it.
That's great. Yeah. That's pretty crazy. Any of you guys feel similarly or different at all?
Yeah, I mean, this goes back to our original coverage of Infinity War, right? Where we were debating, I think Sean brought it up, but whether they're going to reveal anything about the actual plot in the trailers. And Vince is right, they haven't. So it is pretty impressive that they're able to get this far without...
Yeah, I mean, we're a month out, and who knows how much more they're really going to push between now and then,
And to be honest, do they need to? No,
they don't.
Yeah.
Regardless of what other content they put out, they're not getting any more people in the seats than they already are at this point.
If you saw Infinity War, you're not going to not see Endgame, no matter who you are.
You're not going to be like, well, that tied things up pretty nice. I think I'll go home now.
It's I'm on the fence. I think I'm going to see it, but I just need one more trailer to push me over that.
I think
who are you?
I think this is one of the rare cases where Disney has the luxury of not telling us anything about the movie if they don't want, because they have us all
and I hope
captive.
they take advantage.
For sure. it was kind of interesting the way they kind of did the montage, because they know, right? They know that this has to be an end point in some way, mentally as a society, right? And other than Homecoming or Far From Home, there's nothing else that's specifically confirmed. Is there?
Well, I mean, yeah, there's a Black Panther 2 that's going to be happening.
Is that confirmed? Like, there's no date or anything?
Well, there are dates on the Disney calendar for when the next Marvel movies are coming out, and there are I think, confirmations about which ones are happening. I don't think we know which ones are when at this point. So it's kind of we have certain things we know for sure, but they don't connect together.
There's a bit of ambiguity.
It's a little ambiguity. Yeah.
So I just feel like they obviously have to be aware of this, as much as they want to pump these out to make money as much as possible, they have to be aware and are aware that we're at the end of this thing, and the end implies an end of something. Like, even if they're going to start up another whatever, it implies some finality, right? And so I think this trailer, I don't know, like, just showing all the original Avengers in black and white, like, it's like, oh god, they're all gonna die. Did anyone else think that? I just thought, like, they're just teeing us up for, like, oh, they're all dying. They're telling us right here in this trailer they're all dying. Like, obviously I don't know that, but it just felt like that
it was pretty dire, but the tone still manages to portray that, like, excited action movie tone, but also be really dire, really serious.
I mean, it's funny because Tony Stark kind of says it best in the first Avengers when he's talking to Loki. He's like, you don't get it. Even if you win, you don't win because we're going to go hunt you down or whatever, right? And that's kind of what has happened. Like, Thanos won. Everyone agreed Thanos won.
Yep. Right.
So what do you do? Like, what do they do? And obviously it's going to be time, whatever, and I don't know, alternate dimensions. But I think that's the most exciting part to me. It's just like, it's not just some threat of something happening that they have to stop. It's like, no, that was blown. They blew their chance. That's the worst thing that possibly ever that's happened in the universe has happened. What do you do after that?
Yeah.
And to me, it's like, I don't know. That's exciting.
I don't want to know until I'm in the theater.
I mean, it's especially exciting, like, in a cinematic universe where, there rarely has been a horribly tragic event that's, like, continued. Like, there's things that have happened in movies, but then it's like, oh, I guess Nick Fury's okay. Or it's like, oh, I guess Loki made it out of that one. Or it's like,
oh, when Matt Damon...
I guess Matt Damon is dead. Oh, well, he's probably dead in this universe. But yeah, I mean, it's like, it's the first time that we've kind of been left on, like, a sour note. I heard somebody saying that, like, Infinity War was like The Empire Strikes Back, and this is like the Return of the Jedi. This is our generation's kind of, like, thing. This is our cinematic thing. Like, more so than, I would definitely say more so than The Force Awakens and the new Star Wars trilogy. I would say this is
a thing we haven't seen before, like Star Wars.
Exactly.
This is a thing we haven't seen before, and we're getting to a culmination, and that's pretty cool. Yeah.
It's also, like, the most trust. I don't know why, like, the most trust I've had in a movie to actually carry out and have a satisfying conclusion just based off of what I've seen.
Boy, well,
it's like, it would be funny if they got this far
and then they got the last one wrong,
and they just fumbled the last movie.
It would be hilarious if they did.
It'll be like,
man, I'll be crushed.
It'll be like when it'll be like Last Airbender. How Last Airbender was for Vince.
Oh,
right.
That's how this will be for everyone.
I mean, like, just almost that, like. That in itself would be just like
hilarious. Hilarious.
You run a marathon and the mile 25 and a half, you just, like, get hit by a car or something.
I can't wait for Endgame to be terrible.
Oh no!
I mean, how could it be terrible though? Like, in what world could it be terrible? Give me a plot synopsis that sounds terrible to you.
I don't know, man. We already know we're on the.
We go inside. It's just a normal suburban little house, small little house, and there's a baby squatting on the carpet.
Just about to
pooping on the carpet.
Roll credits. We are in the darkest timeline, so that's the movie that we're getting. Well, I don't think we're going to say anything more insightful than that.
No.
All right. You guys ever? No, that's it. We've peaked. Don't bother listening anymore. Can I do the sign off? You guys have anything else to say?
Tell us what they could do to help us or listen to us. Or, I don't know, talk to us.
Well, listeners, I have no idea what you're listening to this on, but we have several platforms that we put this podcast on. One of is our original YumChunks YouTube channel, so you can find video versions of our podcast there. We're also on Radio Public. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We're now on Spotify, so if that's your chosen thing to listen to audio on, we're on Spotify, and we're on TinyCasts. If you want to reach the show, you can leave a comment on any of those platforms that have a comment section. I know the YouTube one does. You can also email us at yumchunks@gmail.com if you just want to send us a message. We would do a mailbag segment if people sent us email, but we don't. So,
that would be a fun
if
segment.
we had any mail,
yeah.
we could, if we put what, how many do you think we would need for a good segment? Like 4 or 5?
Yeah, I'd say 5. Let's aim for 5. If we get 5 emails, we will read your email on the cast.
We'll address it
and answer any
there
questions.
You go. There we go. We got to start making stuff happen there. So those are all the places you can listen to the show. If you have a preferred one, we're all kinds of options. There you go. I did it.
Now we're going to get all the listens.
All of them. Every single one.
Finally. The people who are already listening to us will now know how to listen to us.
Good. I don't know. Some people.
I don't know
you
either.
have. You don't know what kind of program is going to be the best one for your phone.
True.
You know? I don't know.
That's true. But yeah, thanks everyone for staying after the credits. It was a fun episode, and tune in soon. It's the season. 'Tis the season. We're out of the dumb January and February, so we're getting into
spring break
movies all the time. Spring break, got summer coming up soon, so there's going to be a lot of stuff to talk about. So stay tuned for all that.
There you go.
Yes.
Say bye, Vince.
Okay. Bye, Vince.
Ryan?
Oh, no.
Bye, everybody.
There you go. Good.
We did it. See
Take
ya.
it
Bye.
easy. Easy squeezy. Stop and save.
This has been
After the Credits.
a YumChunks podcast.